These summer 22 playoffs are underway and not too many upsets, except there was a full round of upsets in the first round. And that's where it ended. So that leaves us with the top 4 seeds ready to go in the semifinals. As a fan, I'm excited. As a player, not so much, but let's break down why. In the post-game show for the first round and quarterfinals, we have Tim, Cade, and Aidan standing by. I'm Joey, and I'm going to start by pulling up the bracket. So it's awesome that we already got this ready to go. And I think this should do it. So there we go, guys. You can see my screen for a second. You can see the first round there, the 8, 9, and 7, 10. We're going to break down all these games, and we'll pull this back up at the end to preview the semifinals. But as you can see there, the Duje boys advance at 9 o'clock, as do the Werewolves at 8 o'clock over the halfway Crooks. Lob City takes down Bogy Kicks, who won their first game of the season in the first round. So kudos to them. A win's a win. No Hogan brothers or not. It's revenge for week 8 when it matters most. And the Rhode Island Warriors get the win over Sin City. I was busy shooting 20% as a team at 8 o'clock. So I'm excited to see what happened in that one. But I know Gian and Charles were there. So Rhode Island Warriors rolling. That's their 7th in a row. Duje's boys improved to 9-0. The Werewolves, I think, are 6-3, even though records don't matter, but it's, still 6 wins out of 9 games. And Lob City looking to get revenge. They looked, for those who saw Lob City, they looked like a force. We saw Jose back and their full team. So all 9 guys, possibly for the first time this season, all on the court together for Lob City as they get ready to defend their title and avenge a couple losses in the regular season. But guys, we will start with those first round matchups. Let's start with the upset that I think is more of an upset, because the 8-9, maybe we can debate if that is an upset. I would say Ozone going down is an upset, especially after what they proved all season, being a hot team coming into the playoffs. But it is Bogy Kicks who takes them down 73-63 in the first round. David Dupina, 38 points, 14 rebounds. He did a lot. And again, notably, no Hogan brothers, but for long stretches there, Andrew Kavang, Paul McGuire, Zach Brooks, we were like, all right, this is looking good. Like, all right, they're playing Ozone basketball, and then just not enough in that fourth quarter. And so who was on that game? Tim, great. So we're going first. All right. I know we played musical interns last night. So Tim, Ozone and Bogy Kicks. It is Bogy Kicks getting the win. Let's focus on that first game and what they were able to do to get their first win.
Yeah, so for Bogy to get their first win, I would say it was the David Dupina show. Without the Hogan brothers, it was obvious that Dupina was able to get to the rim at will. As you can see, he only missed 1 shot that wasn't a 3, which is pretty incredible. It just shows how he was able to get to the rim. Chase Banks, as well as the type of player that likes to get to the rim. And they didn't really have anyone. They were matching up Zach Brooks on him. That's just a big mismatch in terms of size. So great win for Bogy Kicks. They have been playing great basketball recently, competing pretty much with every team, and they deserve this win. Mike Evans, again, hit some big shots. He makes that team go, setting them up, running them through their offense. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so, we touched on that. You can see there on the screen, Andrew Kavang, Paul McGuire, and Zach Brooks scored all but 6. So missing the Hogan brothers on vacation. Apparently they always go the first week of August, which for the most part is the playoffs. So now we know if that's when they go on vacation, it's going to be tough. But yeah, credit to Bogy getting that first win. And so, I know we're going to talk more about them. Even just, we can let Cade or Aidan jump in on this one as far as the Ozone boys, a capper on their season, but anything from the box score that stands out to you guys on them. 8 for 27 for 3. That could have been one way to overcome no Hogan brothers. We'll put Aidan on the spot, even just looking at the stats from this one to kind of put a bow on it. What do you see, Aidan?
I see potential in Ozone boys next season if they return with the lineup of Andrew, Paul, and Zach. Like, they stepped up. I didn't see this game, but they did step up without the Hogan brothers, and it showed. I know they lost, but it showed, and they were able to fill the gaps and fill the points that the Hogan brothers would actually score. So if they do or return as a team next year and they bring back the same roster, they're going to be a deadly team. I think they went on a 3, almost 4 game win streak in the last couple of weeks, and like we said, you didn't want to play them in the playoffs. It just happened that the Hogan brothers weren't there. But again, you don't want to see them in the playoffs, and they were a good team overall this season.
Yeah, and so even looking at Bogy Kicks, their stats, I mean, 5 made threes in that first round game, 23%. So we kind of know what they do. And it matched up okay against Lob City. I don't want to get too far ahead on that one, but we will get to that one. Let's get to that other first round matchup before we do spend some time on these semifinals, which I am excited to break down, as all 4 of those teams, all 2 matchups happened in the regular season. So at least we have something to go off of looking at those upcoming semifinal matchups. But going to the other first round matchup, it was the 9 seed Lincoln 18ers taking down 8 seed only the Fams. So that means the other 2 of you guys are on the spot. We'll go to Cade first on this one, as far as how the Lincoln 18ers were able to get, that'll be their 3rd win. So there you go. So they ended the season with 3 wins. They got their playoff win and advanced to the quarterfinals. And Cade, I know it was a close one, and then they won by 10 exactly? Yeah. So 61-51, but I know it was close in the 4th quarter, close in the second half. And so what was the difference for the Lincoln 18ers?
I think the difference here was locking down Jaren. It seemed they had Chris Adams on him a lot. And sometimes the Hamilton brothers, they did a really good job locking him down. He was only able to get, I think, 3 tough layups. I don't think he hit a 3 this game, if I'm correct. But yeah, the defense for Lincoln 18ers really was what won them the game. I know they had a lot of big steals there at the end, some good blocks. Both teams shooting wasn't really there this game. But I would say the strong suit for only the Fam was Tucker. And other than that, really nobody was there to help them. You see everyone shooting pretty terribly, to say the least. But Tucker was able to make plays, keep them in the game for as long as he could. But when it came down to the last quarter, Lincoln 18ers were able to lock down and get some good shots and make that difference big enough to get that 10-point win.
All right, Aidan, we're going to you. Were they playing defense? Was it a case of their opponent, situationally playing defense? Or let's one last time, right? About only the Fam. Go ahead.
I think this is the best defense they've played all season. And they held Lincoln to 61. And Lincoln, not discrediting them, but these 2 teams, this matchup could have gone either way. And maybe it was just the way the only Fam was playing, but it seemed like Jaren just kind of took a back seat, and it was the Tucker show, as Cade said. But they played defense, and it was a close game throughout, so they actually had to play defense. And it just, like Cade said, they had Chris Adams on Jaren, and he kind of locked them up. And we haven't really seen that, but they did play defense. As you know, I'm historically saying they never played defense, but this game, I think they played the most defense they played all season. Hard-fought game. Very close game, a very entertaining game to watch, even though they weren't 2 star-studded teams. A good, entertaining playoff game, and congrats to the Lincoln 18ers for their win. They deserved that win. They grinded for it, played team basketball, and unfortunately, they fell to the Duje's boys, but they were able to pick up their win in the playoffs. They won a playoff game, which I don't think even they expected that, but they played a great season.
Yeah, a win's a win, especially when it happens in the playoffs. Let me just say, the post-game interview by Tom Carroll, who will hopefully be a dunk contest judge for us. He's just a character, and it's great. But his post-game interview was exactly what you'd expect. He amped it up for the playoffs as well. Let's put it that way. So definitely check that out on Facebook. It'll be on Instagram later this week. I laughed watching it the next day. So good for Tom Carroll. But yeah, I mean, neither team in this game shot over 35% from the floor. So is it defense? Is it missing, just both teams happen to miss shots? We'll see. This is a transition that is not fun, but surprisingly, a team in the 8 o'clock game in that first round matchup would have taken, 35% shooting from the floor. In their playoff game. As we get to the halfway, Crooks and the Werewolves. So first round in the books. Let's get to the quarterfinal matchups now. We'll start with that 4-5 matchup. The halfway Crooks and Werewolves, as we know, because in week 7 these teams played and we went over all the matchup. It's been a lot of Werewolves recently, and that continues. It's 4 or 5 in a row now. It's 2-0 in the playoffs for sure for the Werewolves. And what I was referencing was a 27% field goal percentage for the halfway crooks and a 5 for 25 night from three. I don't care who you're playing. That's, sure, credit to the Werewolves defense, and I'll let you guys even touch on that. At some point, it doesn't matter who you're playing, it's going to be very difficult to overcome that, especially, and I'll speak for myself on this one, for a team in the halfway crooks that would rather be a low scoring game, but not a, 43-point win for a team. It's not that low scoring for any team. So it is the Werewolves getting the win 56-43. They advance to the semifinals. I'll look up the stat. The Werewolves tweeted something about how many times they've been in the semifinals, so credit to them. But before we look ahead, as they get ready to take on the Duje's boys in the semis, let's focus on this one. And, I think it would have been Aidan was gone. Who was there? Tim? Yeah, let's go back to Tim. There we go. Cool. You two. Perfect. We'll go to Tim first. And, what exactly the Werewolves were able to do in addition to that defense to get the win. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, so early on in this game, it was close to the start. I was seeing Jeff Winchell get into his spots early on, whatever he wanted to Connor Harrington, which is probably one of the only guys in the league that can match up with him size-wise, I would say. But overall, just like not good shooting from honestly either team. But for the Crooks, I think it was obvious to see that Spence was off. Mark, I feel like Mark played well until he took that elbow to the nose, but he shot pretty well. But overall, just like you said, you got to make shots to win in the playoffs, and that's just not what happened here. But for the Werewolves, I would say I was kind of expecting to see a Spence Heston matchup, but it was more of like a Spence Sam Clifford matchup, and I think Sam won that matchup. He played great D the whole night on him. He was able to chip in and add that secondary piece to Brian, who had a good game. And yeah, I think this formula to win is good for the Werewolves. Gino, I think he needs to play better though if they're going to beat Duje's. He didn't have the best game, and I know he's capable of more.
Yeah, and so just to even while we still have the stats up here, and then we'll get over to Aidan, 3 for 14 for three. We talked about that before we came on. It's like, all right, something did go the halfway crooks way, and they couldn't capitalize. Go ahead, Aidan, your thoughts on this one.
So as you're referring to that stat, the Werewolves have made the semis for the 5th time in the 7 seasons that you guys have had it, with the winter and the summer. So in fall, this game specifically, just watching it was a playoff game, obviously, but it looked like Heston was not trying more. I don't want to say that, but it looked like he not even cared more about the game, but he was kind of going crazy. He was going in the paint, just doing everything he could, and actually playing the game that he wanted to play, which he always does. And like Tim said, they need a bigger game from Gino next week, and they need a good game from Sam Clifford. And they just kind of played cohesive basketball. Like these people have played with each other for a long time, Brian and Gino, and even Jared and Connor. All 4 of them have played a while together, and they know each other so well. And I think the key to them facing the Duje's boys next week is just playing the game they want to play and getting the defensive stops they can do, because they're a great defensive team, and they just look like this is where they belong in the playoffs.
Yeah, doing more of what we saw in the quarterfinals for the Werewolves would be important, and improving on that for sure. They only shot 43%, and yeah, I'm going to do math quickly. 40 of their 56 scored by Heston and Clifford, and it was, we mentioned last time the Crooks and Werewolves faced off. It was like Sam Clifford with 30, and Heston, didn't have a typical Brian Heston game, even though he still played okay. Definitely, it's one of those games where he was much more noticeable on the court tonight, as we expected. So playoff Brian Heston in full form. We're going to get to, playoff Greg Holt in a second. And of course, I'm going to point out when I'm right. Duh. And so even, that's how I know people listen, guys. Lob City's like, you said it. And, they like to pump me up. So then when I'm wrong, they can, really rip us all down. But the Werewolves advance. Aidan had the stat, the 5th semifinals in 7 seasons. So there you go. And they will take on the Duje's boys. So we'll preview that matchup in a second. Before we get there, let's get to the other quarterfinal matchup. between the 3rd seeded Warriors, and the 6th seeded Sin City. It was all Rhode Island Warriors, and it looks like a huge second quarter. So that means this one will be all Cade, and I know he might have to sneak off, but let's get to Cade quickly on those Warriors and what they were able to do with the 2-headed. Well, it was more of like a 3.5-headed monster, right? Between Hachi being there. But go ahead, Cade, on how the Warriors were able to get the win.
So for this game was my most anticipated game, I think, for this week. And to be fair, I think it was the whole team was a monster this game. I mean, they had 19 steals, which is incredible. I don't know if that's a record, but I would have to look into it. But the key to this win was locking down Devin. They didn't have a big man. I know number 9, I think Antonio, I think his name is, was doing pretty good down low. I know he got in a little bit of foul trouble, but yeah, they just locked him down. They double teamed him down in the paint, and then Taj would have to force up a shot. Justin was hitting pretty good from 3. He shot 57%. But other than that, it was just the Warriors outrunning them, getting down there, getting shots. I know they put up a lot more shots. They shot about even with Sin City, but they were just able to put up more shots, stealing the ball, getting fast breaks. And they have a lot of shooters. I mean, Charles, Hachi, and Gian is like you said, a 3-headed monster that you can't really defend that well. But even the rest of the team did a great job defensively. I mean, Gian had 7 blocks, 5 steals. Everyone else had a bunch of steals. Sin City wasn't really controlling the ball that well. But this next week's matchup with Lob City, I think, is going to be a great one because they have a lot of big guys, and Warriors proven without a big man that they can lock down a big guy. So, yeah, it's going to be a great matchup next week.
And before we get back to Sin City, Cade, your key to Warriors Lob before you sneak off.
I think it's going to be defense for Warriors because we know they have offense. We know they can score. I think they've averaged like almost 80 points a game this season. And I think steals are going to be key for them because if they can steal it from some of those bigger guys, Colin, Jose, maybe the guys that can't dribble the ball as well as Cody and Greg can. But yeah, it's going to be defense for Warriors because first game, I think they lost by like 50 to them, but it's now come full circle. Warriors have gone a long way, and they're going to prove that they belong in this league.
Yeah, and Greg alluded to that. Cade, if you're still around, we'll come back to you. If not, it's all good. But yeah, Greg alluded to that in the postgame about the Warriors and the last time they played them and how they are rolling. We touched on how it is 7 in a row for the Warriors. We're going to talk more about that matchup. We can go to, let's go. I don't know. I know Aidan's got, yeah, we'll go back to Tim. It's all good. Hi, Tim. Looking at Sin City, I know we've talked about them a lot, but, we mentioned how Devin Devampina, but it is Devampina, I believe. Did I get it wrong, Devin? Dev? I know it's Dev. We're doing Dev. That's it. Dev, I know he had an off night. Maybe it was, jet lag. No, I don't. I know he was away last week, but that was a huge part in the Warriors getting the win. But what about this Sin City team, stands out to you, kind of even looking back at their season, which we don't want to overlook? I mean, a new team. They started out 1-2, I think. I don't think it was 0-2. It could have been 0-2. And then they really turned it around and were a team that we looked at coming into the playoffs as a sleeper. So go ahead, Tim. Yeah, little on Sin City.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure, Sin City's fatal flaws have been there all year. They're close to leading the league in that. And, you're just not going to win like that because, you're giving the Warriors so many easy transition buckets, that game's going to get out of hand pretty quickly. But I think if Sin City comes back next year, they should know they can compete in this league. They pretty much competed with Duje's pretty much, well, not Lob because they had 3 players, but I think if they had Devin Pena, they might have, but I think they can compete with anyone. But I would just say there's always bit them this whole. Hope they're back next year.
Yeah, for sure. And so as we get away from that screen, give me 1 second on that. instead of a Sin City Lob rematch, like Tim talked about, it will be the Warriors and Lob City. And so they will face off in one semifinal. I know we previewed it a lot. How did Lob City get there? Well, it wasn't without a little fun on court one at 9 o'clock between Lob City and Bogy Kicks, but we talked about how Bogy Kicks were able to win their first round matchup, and because of their seeding, that means they played one of the top 2 seeds at 9 o'clock on the same night, took on Lob City and fell by 14. It was up to as many as, let's be generous, 25 in that range is definitely accurate, is what Lob City was able to get that lead up to. I know Aidan was there, so we will definitely get to Aidan on this one. And what, I know we're going to focus a lot on Lob City. We already talked about Bogy Kicks. They didn't roll over, that's for sure, but too much Lob City, too much playoff Greg Holt, who had a Greg Holt game, which we talked about during the game that you've seen before, so it's not new to you, but maybe new to some other people who maybe have just seen this season. And like I said, Greg, always seems to step it up come playoff time. So the defending champs, Aidan, they looked like it last night.
Yeah, this, like you said, I think this might have been the first time or even second time the whole season that they've had their whole team. And let me tell you, when I saw Jose walk through the door, I'm like, oh my God, I just saw a ghost, because he hasn't been there, and he's a key piece to that team. He's one of the best players on that team. And like you said, playoff Greg Holt. I think what happened is there was some chirping going on, and Greg just took it to heart, and he's like, I'm gonna take over this game. And it looked like he was coming up with the ball every possession and just scoring with ease. And Cody didn't have a really good night, but he didn't play that much because they let Colin, Greg, and Jose play a lot. And even Carl Lee had some nice shots, some pretty big dunks. I think he hit his shoulder on the backboard for one of them. But the key for Lob City, I think, going forward to repeat as champions is to have their whole team there and to just have their players obviously play their roles, but also you get Greg, who can go off any given night. And if Cody's having an off night, he didn't play that well, or play that much, I should say, or well, but they have all 9 guys on this team can score. Now, they may not play a lot, but every single player on this team can score. And I think that that's a key. And go back to Bogy Kicks quick. This was their second game of the night, and they might be the only team that has the size to combat Lob City with Chase Banks and David DePina and even Mike Evans. But it was an interesting season. They did get their first win. A win is a win regardless in the playoffs. And if they are to come back next season, they do have to make some tweaks and changes of their lineups and playing cohesively as a team. But this game, 65-79, it was kind of close. Obviously Lob City ran away with it in the third quarter, and then Bogy Kicks, combated that back up in this fourth quarter. It was a well-played game, and like Tim had said, or even Cade had said earlier, I don't remember, but Bogy Kicks, the last 5 weeks, they've played very well basketball, or very cohesive basketball, I should say. And they've played well, and if they come back next year, I think they could at least get another win, but it's just they got their win in the playoffs, they got their one win, and Lob City just looked fantastic in this game. And I think everybody was hyped enough when Jose came, and they're like, oh, we got Jose back, we're just going to roll with it now.
Yeah, and the game started with a immediate lob off the tip to Jose. So we all knew he was there for sure. Cade, you were over there, right? Yeah, cool. Let's focus on, Aidan touched on Bogy Kicks, and that's great. Let's get back to Lob City before we really preview that matchup. I know you touched on it quickly, but even just Lob City in this game and what we saw in their one playoff game so far this season with their full team, putting lineups out there like Colin and Nuri and Carl, right? And then insert other person here. You can go with Jose, and then that might be one of the biggest lineups the league has seen, minus some of the initial Lob City team way back in that first season, because they were much larger than this team. They had some big guys who were like, I'm good after playing one season in the league, but they can put lineups like that out there. They can also go smaller, right? And go Victor, and Greg and Cody, and then put one of those bigger guys in there with them. And now they're a little smaller. They're still able to defend because of Victor and Greg's ability. And Cody is no slouch, but their ability to get steals and get out and run, and they're still able to adapt that way. So, what did we see from Lob City, Cade, in this one, at least with their versatility and having all of their players and what the, different lineups they can put out there could mean?
Yeah, they have an infinite amount of possibilities with their lineups. I think they started with Jose, Colin, Victor, and maybe Nuri, I think, started. But yeah, that lineup right there is a very hard lineup to guard. I know, like with Bogy Kicks, you have somebody who's shorter than everyone on the court, like Bogy on the court, trying to get someone to defend. Yeah, you can't really pick for him. You kind of maybe have to go to his own at that point. But yeah, having Victor out there to kind of control the floor as these big guys just lob after lob dunks. It's very hard lineup to defend. But when you kind of switch it up in the middle of the game, you get Cody out there, Justin, Greg. You kind of have to change your whole defensive plan. You got to be able to defend at the smaller position now with these guys dribbling. All these guys dribble amazingly. And the amount of passes that go through each possession when those three are on the court is very hard. You got the whole defense just running around if you're stuck in that zone you were just in for the big guys. And obviously Jose is kind of that X factor. You can't really have a plan to guard him. He's great on defense and he's just got unlimited stamina and he's just there the whole night giving you health. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and so one more matchup, and I know it's going to be, I can even break some of it down for you guys, but let's do it. And so we're looking at the last team that is in that Final Four in our semifinals, the Duje's boys, as the top seed undefeated coming in, taking on the 9-seeded Lincoln 18ers, who had already played once that same night. They do win 115-70, and even by the looks of the box score by halftime, it looked very wide open, as in a huge margin of over 20 points for the Duje's boys, and they continued to grow it later on in the game. I'll throw some stats up there, and then we can even we'll get Aidan in there quick, and we'll get Cade back in on this one quick. But even Duje's boys, so talk about having 9 guys, right? There go the Duje's boys, same thing, playing all of their players, and they shot 58% as a team and 40% from 3. So I'll pull the stats up in a second, but if they're going to shoot that well, it's like the opposite of what I said of the other teams, right? If they're going to shoot that well as a team, I don't care how big or small the other team may be, that's going to be a challenge, right? And that's why they're undefeated, and that's why they are champions, and it goes on and on. It's even playing a team like Lob City, not that they need that type of shooting night, because they may never shoot this well in another game this season, because it will be in the semifinals and finals, but that type of shooting, against the Lincoln 18ers, who, 39% for them, and 29% from 3 for Lincoln in that one. Again, their second game of the night, a little tired, but let's go to Aidan quick on the Duje's boys, and we're going to obviously talk a lot more about them heading into next week, but they took care of business for sure in their quarterfinal matchup.
So I think with this game, I want to obviously say Kutu did score and Vinny did, and I think Shane had at least 15, which brings me to my thing. Is Shane talks a lot and he's very vocal, but when he knocks down shots, he's able to play. And you just look at this. You have 6 people who scored over double digits. Like, if you have 6 players scoring over double digits, that's minimum 60 right there. And they shot very well. And this is just the basketball they've been playing the whole season. It was against a tired Lincoln 18ers team, but I do think Ryan Musket was there for this game for the Lincoln 18ers, and he wasn't there in the beginning. So that was a fresh face for them and some more stamina. But just back to the Duje's boys, they played cohesive basketball like they've always played. They got all their players in. Everybody scored in this game, even for Duje and PJ, who I haven't seen score in a lot of games. But they are en route to winning their second championship, maybe. They're playing the Werewolves next week, like we'll preview later. But if they can continue playing like this and shooting well and just shooting, they went 100% for free throw. I mean, they only shot 3 free throws, but still 100% from the free throw line is going to help you, even if you shoot only a few of them and the other team misses. But the key to them is just continuing to playing great basketball and they've played the Werewolves before, so they know how they play. And I think they played recently in the last 2-3 weeks, maybe. I could be wrong, but familiar teams, familiar faces, and these players know how to guard each other. So I think it'll be a great matchup for them. That's previewing. But again, the Duje's boys just look dominant as always in this game.
Yeah, and so let's actually, get to Cade and let him preview the other matchup he hasn't even touched on yet. So give me 1 second. We're gonna stop this. I'm gonna get that bracket back up on the screen for you guys as we go to Cade. So looking at the semifinals, I'll do my read in a second. My homer read in a second as Tim is back as well. But Cade, I know you touched on Lob City and the Warriors. So we'll let Cade kind of look at, do you want to make your pick for that one for Lob City and the Warriors, Cade? Just one word quickly.
Yeah. I love watching the Warriors, but I'm going to have to go with Lob City.
All right. Perfect. So we got a Lob City pick for Cade only because I know he's limited on time. And then as far as the other one, Cade, so you can give us some analysis. We are looking at the Duje's boys who we just talked about getting the win, and the Werewolves who were able to escape with the win, but I'm not even being facetious or anything. I mean, both teams didn't shoot it well in that game, and here they are, right? And a lot of credit to the Werewolves defense. So the last time those two teams played was week 8. So 8 days ago is what we're looking at. And it was a 10-point win for the Duje's boys. And if we remember, it was not, they started some different lineups. They played some different players, and then come the fourth quarter, they were like, all right, let's actually, let's keep this a game. And the Duje's boys were able to make some plays and get away with the win to remain undefeated, but that wasn't necessarily their plan going in. So I expect them to start their normal lineup this week, especially with the semifinals ahead of us, taking on a Werewolves who they've played in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure, and have played a ton in the regular season when they were actually, we're actually trying. Again, that implies they weren't trying in week 8. You guys get my point. So, Cade, in this one, what's going to be a key as both of these teams at full strength go at it for a spot in the finals?
I know we covered this matchup in week 8, and I basically said Duje's are just the better team. Werewolves are going to have to show up. Sam Clifford's going to have to play out of his mind. Brian's going to have to play out of his mind, usually how he does. But everyone's on the Werewolves is going to have to pitch in because when you got the Duje boys hot, it's a very hard team to beat. When you got Shane scoring 16, looking like his rookie self, it's a very hard team to beat. So just going to have to hit their shots, basically. I don't know. But with that being said, I'm going to pick the Duje boys before I send myself off.
All right, so we got a Duje's boys and Lob, right, Cade? So there you go. As I just pulled back up. So Cade, thank you. All right, so we know Cade's picks. There you go. If he's wrong, you can get at him. Cade Ryan, there you go. All right. I pulled up the box score from that week 8 matchup. We can get back to Tim, who is back. Love it. So Tim, looking back at that week 8 matchup, I don't know if you saw it. Doesn't really matter. It was a 10-point win for the Duje's boys, and you can see here, 2 for 18 for the 2 for 18 from 3 for the Werewolves. There you go. Wanted to make sure I was looking at the right thing. So we talked about, I think they hit 3 in their quarterfinal matchup. They hit 2 in week 8. So I know math is easy in that case. 5 combined threes in their past 2 games as a team. That will have to improve. What's another key for you in this one as we get to that, Duje's boys and Werewolves semifinal matchup, Tim?
I would say a key for the Werewolves would be to shoot the ball better because as we saw against the Crooks and in this game, they didn't shoot well. And the Warriors, not the Warriors, the Werewolves often are able to beat teams even without shooting well. But I do think that's going to help them out against a team like Duje's that does shoot the ball well, typically when they play. I would like to see Heston on the Crooks game, and that just made it really hard for the Crooks to really do anything offensively. And I think if Heston can get boys' offense out of rhythm, which is an incredibly hard thing to do, they could have a shot. But I would be surprised to win, but I think it's definitely possible.
Yeah, and so Tim, let's have it. What's your pick in this one? Duje's and Werewolves.
Yeah, so I went 0 for 4 on picks last week, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to curse this matchup, but I'm gonna take Duye's in this one. I just think they're operating very well right now. I saw Zach Tartaglia up his game last week. I saw Shane Patrick up his game last week. If those guys are doing that, they have so many guys that can beat you that it's pretty much like you're picking your poison at that point.
All right, so pick for the Duye's boys. Let's turn this off and we'll get back to Aidan. Aidan, let's do it. So they're back at it again. Duye's boys and Werewolves.
I did pick Duye's as my champion to begin with, and I think I'm going to stick with that. But I think this is going to be a fantastic game. I said my pick is Duye's. No discredit to the Werewolves. I know Heston can play, and they need another big game from Gino like they had when they played the Duye's boys 8 days ago. You said they need another big game from Gino to even try and combat the amount of people that can score on Duye's, because you have Yarcy, Tartaglia, Vinny, even John, almost forgot him, and obviously Shane, who can score when they need to. So it's going to be a fun matchup, a intense matchup, I would hope, a very close game, I would hope. But both teams need to be able to hit their shots and do it well. So I hope, not hope, my pick is the Duye's, but I don't think it's going to be by a lot.
Yeah, it should be a good one, and we'll see if Brian Heston. I'm having flashbacks of him in the finals making some huge plays to push it to overtime. Hopefully, we get an overtime game. I think only one this season is correct. I think I was listening to the podcast, and it was only the one. And so in the regular season, an overtime game would be overtime, and then first team to score is how we kind of end it quicker. In the playoffs, we go 2-minute overtimes until someone wins. So we have had triple overtime, I believe, in Rhode Island, but definitely in Connecticut. So it's happened in playoff games. Triple overtime is our max, I'm pretty sure. And that's crazy enough because they're so short. So especially in a playoff game, but hopefully we get that. I do expect it to be close as well. Let's get to that other matchup. So like we talked about, the second seeded Lob City and the third seeded Rhode Island Warriors. When those two teams faced off in week 1, as we touched on, 52-point win by Lob City. I was doing math on the spot, 134-82. I'll pull up that box score in a second. Let's go back to Tim. You can make your pick and explain why, but also a key to this game, which also leads into who you're picking, I'm sure, as we, even Lob City expects it to be different than it went in week 1. I know they still expect to win. The result, they don't expect to be different, but I'm sure how they get there, they expect it to be different. Like we talked about, the Warriors have won 7 in a row. Lob City only 2 losses on the whole year. So that means they have 7 wins as well. So there you go. Identical records coming in. Tim, a key and a pick for this semifinal.
I would say key for this one, based on last week's game, the Warriors turned over Sin City over and over. So I would say Lob City to have to limit their turnovers and limit the transition opportunities for Rhode Island Warriors, because I believe that's when they're at their best. I would say Lob City is a definite uptick in size to Sin City, so that will be another test for them. So yeah, they're gonna have to keep them off the boards. Lob City actually isn't great offensively on the glass this year, but defensively they rank in the top half of the league, and it's not hard to see why. Gian, I think, is gonna have to play a big part in this game, playing as a big, as much as he can, honestly. And my pick this game is Lob City, based on Jose's WWE surprise entrance last week. But yeah, I just think they have too much size. They have too much depth. But I really hope this is a good game. And I think the Warriors prove they can beat anyone, and they should.
Yeah, for sure. So we got a Lob City pick from Tim. Aidan, are we getting a rematch of last year, according to you? That's the question.
I think so, yes. I think we're going to have a rematch. Like Tim said, the key to this game is going to be how the RI Warriors combat Lob City size. And we know Gian can play defense. We've seen him play defense, and obviously, I don't know if he'll go for 90. He's going to go for at least 30 plus, I would hope. If Charles is there too, they're going to be their main guys. But I still think Lob City is going to win. This game, like you said, they met in week 1, 52-point margin. That was 9 weeks ago when this happens. Very different feel of the league. Now the RI Warriors, like you said, they went 0-2. They've won 7 straight. Gion's had an incredible season. But again, Lob City, like Tim said, surprise entrance of Jose right there. Like I said, I saw a ghost. But again, I think we're going to have a rematch. Lob City like I said, everybody can score on that team like we've talked about before. RI Warriors are going to have a tough game. They need to see Gian score a lot, Charles score a lot, Hachi even score, and even Antonio he's able to score too. He's going to play their big man role, I believe. So it's going to be a tough matchup if he's guarding Nuri and Carl and even Cody sometimes, just matchup wise. But another key player I think in this game to keep going off is going to be Victor Kashu if he comes, because he brings a different defensive presence and energy to the team. So I think he's a very key player if he comes in, and it could change the game. I don't know if it will, but it could. And like if Lob City has their whole team, I think they're unstoppable, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, and so I mean, Victor, I remember looking at the stats from the quarterfinals when they played. He didn't have any points, but there were moments, and I mean, so sure, we're watching the game, so we can see he's out there, but there were moments when he made he was out there, and that's not English, but you knew he was out there because of his plays, right? He wasn't necessarily scoring, and on this team, he definitely doesn't have to, as we've seen the entire season. But he has it in him, let's put it that way, so that could be a boost. And he definitely makes his presence felt, and that is kind of the Greg Holt effect as well. It's like, oh yeah, Greg's definitely here today. There he is, and sometimes in the regular season. So I'll stick on that. I know Greg will have another impactful game, and we may be looking at a rematch, and we'll see if one of the other two teams, the Werewolves or the Warriors, can break through. And yeah, they're dropping like flies, Aidan. It's me and you left, but that's all right. We'll see if they can get in, see if they can get to the finals, and it's one game. And so, I know we'll carry it from last week, but anything is possible, right? I'll steal Cade's line. So we'll see. Semifinals take place on Tuesday, August 9th at 7 and 8 o'clock. We'll see Lob City and the Rhode Island Warriors at 7, followed by the Duje's boys and Werewolves at 8 for Cade, Tim, who's back now. So I know he's struggling over there, but he made it. And Aidan, Joey, we're wrapping up the season. We'll have the semifinals, like I said, on Tuesday. Next week, we're also going to have that all-star draft. So keep an eye out for more information on that. That's how we're going to release who is an all-star. And we're going to have PJ Thomas and Dan Ruggiero pick their teams. It won't be live because that just gets a little tricky, but we'll do it like this, where it's a show. We'll release the show and you guys can watch it to find out who is an all-star and what team and what antics ensue from there. So get ready for that. And then all-star night is the 23rd with the 3-point dunk contest and all-star game. So guys, good job. 3 post-game shows left. 2. Yeah, all-star really doesn't get one. It's all right. After all-star, we're all just like, yeah, that was fun, but we're good. So 2 post-game shows left, including 1 live one. Surprise. We do it live at the final, so get ready. But yeah, it's a sad time, guys. It's winding down. There are 4 teams left. We'll see next week if we have a finals rematch or a different matchup. Thanks, guys, and thanks for watching.